Today I want to talk about substance abuse, but not in the way that you're thinking.
So when you dated your husband in the beginning, did you ever answer the door with your hair all crazy?
Hey, it's the MorrowMarriage podcast. Today I have a good one for you. You react, so you repeat your cycle.
I'm Cass.
I'm Kathryn.
Today we want to talk about the nice guys, covert contracts, and why it's killing your marriage. How to help someone who's sitting in their pain. And we can talk about people in general. And today I want to talk about money and how it's not the problem. Because guys, you can't solve problems if people are presenting fake shit.
We're MorrowMarriage.
Let's flip divorce statistics with the new marriage.
All right, guys, welcome to the MorrowMarriage podcast. Today I want to talk about substance abuse, but not in the way that you're thinking, okay? So this is fan mail. We have a man he desperately wants his wife to quit smoking weed, okay? And
we've had a few of those types of people in our program.
Yeah, many. And, here's the thing. Okay, and this, by the way, I don't mean just men or women. It's a people problem, whatever substance. What I loved about this man's message is he specifically addressed himself. And he said, it doesn't align with my core values. I have no idea how to convey this message and how important it is to me. And I thought it was a very short, by the way, if you listen to the last episode, it wasn't a bunch of woe is me crap. He's like to the point.
How do I get from A to B?
A to B, core values. I love this message. And so I would just want to give you some encouragement first and foremost. The first thing you have to understand is a lot of people, they don't view any sort of alcohol, drugs, whatever, as a problem, especially if it's legal where you are, right?
A lot of people.
And
there's so much that's legalized right now. So people just see it as smoking weed is the same as having a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm. So
that's not how I feel, but this is how a lot of people feel.
100% agree. But why I think that's really important to understand, baby, is because to this man, where he's thinking about his core values, it's not an attack on your core values. First thing you need to understand is she just doesn't have a core value surrounded by it. Right?
Exactly. They think differently. It doesn't mean that she's doing something wrong. For him, it's wrong. Mm-hmm. For her, it's not. And this is where we get into something called a perpetual problem, actually, which we won't go into today.
No, why don't you? I think it's a great time.
Okay, so the Gottmans, who you hear us talk about a lot, have determined that 69% of problems are not solvable. They are perpetual or they are perpetual and gridlocked. If you put your knuckles together, put your fingers together, weave them together and try to move back and forth. I'm doing it on YouTube for you guys. That's what a gridlock is. You're not moving in any direction. You're stuck. And so a gridlocked problem is worse than a perpetual problem because you can't make any movement. In a perpetual problem, often you can make some movement, but you can never advance. And so when you have a perpetual problem, it's not something that's just an annoyance that's solvable. So for example, if you can solve a scheduling problem by changing one of your schedules, then you solve the problem. Or money, money can be a perpetual problem, but if you can solve the problem, you solve it. If it's perpetually coming up, it's causing lots of problems. Most of the time, almost always, it's rooted in a difference in core values, which is why it continues to come up. So for this couple, for example, it doesn't align with his core values to be smoking weed. We don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe you had a conversation with him. I don't know why, but I can empathize with him because we would have that same problem if we had a different mindset on that. Now, she obviously thinks the way a lot of the world thinks. And again, it's not a wrong way of thinking. Everyone's going to be different. So I'm not coming down on all of you weed smokers out there. But if she thinks it's fine and she thinks, well, it's legal, I'm not out of control, I'm not driving, I'm not doing it around the kids, whatever that is, her core values might be doing it safely and doing it responsibly, where his core values are not doing it at all. So when there's a difference in core values, that's when you have to do conflict interventions that allow you to see each other's perspective in a very deep way so that you can come to a place where you can compromise. Because when you can compromise, you don't sacrifice your core values, but you do sacrifice for your partner. But you need to have a deep understanding first. I'll just give a quick example, and this is just speculating. But let's say this woman has really bad anxiety or chronic pain. Well, this might be solving a problem for her. Maybe it's just stress. Maybe it's not actual anxiety. She's just stressed. It helps her relax the same way a lot of people would sit down and have a glass of wine, which some people don't agree with either. So whatever it is for her, she probably has a reason that she's doing it. If they can get on the same team and look at the situation from each other's perspective and then come to a compromise where you're both making changes, both people have to sacrifice. It doesn't have to be equal sacrifice, but both people have to sacrifice. You can respect each other's core values, not violate each other's core values, and stay away from setting boundaries.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, right at the top there, did you notice how she didn't make an assumption that it was negative that she's smoking the weed? right? You didn't go into, and this is what a lot of you guys do in your relationship. You automatically assume the worst, right? Well, she's just going to start just getting worse, going to get worse. And she's just going to start, now she's staying up all night and doing it. And like, so you're perpetuating your problem that's already a problem.
You're catastrophizing it.
That's right. So I love how you did that. It was a great example.
Well, thanks, baby.
Always assume the best. Okay. 2, right now, it sounds to me, at least the impression that I'm getting from the message that I saw, is that you don't have a deep enough connection to even compromise the way that Kathryn's talking about here, right?
It's a perpetual problem,
That's
which
right.
breeds disconnection.
That's right. And if you're disconnected, you're going to have the disrespect, which means there is no place for getting through some of these issues, which means you have to continue to rise up. Now, so if you're not smoking weed, you're probably not drinking then, hopefully, because now you have to go tit for tat there almost if you're going to be like.
Here's the thing though, you wouldn't. So let's say he's drinking and she's smoking weed, but if it doesn't violate her core values, then she might not have an issue with his drinking, and then she's going to use it against him. She's going to say, well, if you were drinking, why can't I smoke weed?
Well, I wanted to say something different.
Right.
So what I mean by that is, well, if you've got a problem, like you better have not just like you're not smoking weed. Okay, we get that. Now you better not be drinking. You better be eating right. You better be working out. You better be hitting a jiu-jitsu class. You better be active with the children. You better be showing up in the lifestyle that supports not smoking weed. Okay. Now you're starting to look at your actual core value, because not smoking weed is not really a core value. What is that value behind there? It might tie into something to do with working, might tie into something to do with memory and supporting everything because your family has Alzheimer's. Like there are so many different ways we can look at this.
And you don't know until you do some of the interventions strategies to be able to find out where each other is in their thinking.
Well, you're going back to that again. I don't think you're in that place right now, because I think you have too much disrespect. And so if you can, you definitely do what Kathryn's saying. But otherwise, it's about you, dude, as a leading man. Who do you want to be in life? Are you living up to all core values? Do you have a morning routine where you assess your core values? You know who you are as a man and all the steps you're taking to become that man. That man can look in the mirror and talk about a lot more than just weed, which is probably not the actual issue.
Right. And I think what he's trying to say is, before you ask anything of anyone else, you better have your life together.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be those specific things that he said, but you have to have your life together, because if she's smoking it responsibly, the way that I talked about, then just because it goes against your core values doesn't mean that you can go in and then judge and criticize. If she's being irresponsible and you already have your life together, but then you're disconnected, then you still can't go in with a conversation, because a judgment or a criticism is not going to come across nice or constructive if you're not connected. If you're connected, you can talk about anything and it's not going to come across as judgment or criticism. It just comes across as a desire of your heart.
And not too long ago, we did a whole episode on boundaries again, where Kathryn went through our Inspire, Lead, Ask, Motivate with Boundary. I'd suggest looking at that, because if you're trying to more than likely put in a boundary around this, that's part of the problem. You can't do that if you're in this position where you're currently at, right? Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.